Our story begins with the main character being captured by a group of powerful wizards. They give him one last chance to use his magic and assess his strength. However, when he uses his magic against them, it turns out to be extremely weak. They continue to mock and laugh at him, saying, "In the Book of Magic, you need either talent or lineage, and unfortunately, you have neither." Their leader decides to kill him using fire magic. Strangely, as the fire magic is used on him and he dies, he feels immense happiness because the magic used to kill him was incredibly strong. He wishes for a new life where he could study such magic. And sure enough, our main character is reborn in another world as a young child. When he opens his eyes, he finds many servants around him, but he is terrified of them. He decides to defend himself, and suddenly, he unleashes a large burst of fire that destroys the walls of the castle. Naturally, the servants are shocked and frightened by his power. Our reborn main character is named Lloyd, and he is the 7th prince of the kingdom. Several years later, Lloyd has grown up. By this time, we see him frequently running away from the servants to read magic books. When he meets his siblings, he tells them, "Don't tell the servants that I like reading magic books." They invite him to join them on a hunt, but he flees. We also learn that because of his young age, Lloyd is not a primary candidate to become king. However, since childhood, he has astonished everyone with his extraordinary magical abilities and his love for reading magic books. Lloyd is delighted to have been reborn to learn magic. We often see him sneaking into the palace library to read all the magic books there. Suddenly, a girl appears behind him, takes his book, and forbids him from reading magic books. This girl is his teacher, named Sylvia, who takes him to train in swordsmanship since he is part of the royal family. 3 years pass, and Lloyd continues to train with swords, but he grows bored of the tedious training and longs to read magic books. Eventually, he skillfully and powerfully fights against his teacher, Sylvia, impressing her with his strength. We learn that Lloyd has been using control magic to keep up with his teacher's movements. This means Lloyd was using a magic trick to get through his training. However, since his body is still small, he cannot endure for long. So, he uses magic again to enlarge his sword and enhance his muscles with strength magic. He also uses flight magic to fly in the air, allowing him to match Sylvia's power. Lloyd decides to finish the fight quickly. He uses teleportation magic to move swiftly and suddenly appears in front of Sylvia, thinking he can defeat her. However, Sylvia blocks his attack with a single strike and says, "I know you've been cheating by using magic in our fight." Nevertheless, she is impressed by Lloyd's magical abilities, as at such a young age, he can use several spells at once. Afterward, Sylvia takes him to the bath to clean up. Lloyd is uninterested and wants to hurry to the library to read magic books, but the servants around him keep scaring him by saying there's a demon in the forbidden library. The servants claim that the demon nearly destroyed the kingdom, but the strongest wizards sacrificed their lives to defeat it and seal its power inside a book. Sylvia tells them that the book is in the forbidden library, and that Lloyd is a very brave child, so he won't be scared of the demon. Lloyd takes advantage of the argument and sneaks off to the forbidden library. That night, we see him sneaking in alone and reaching the door of the forbidden library. However, guards are stationed there, so he decides to use disguise magic to slip past them unnoticed. Upon entering, he finds a very strong magic barrier with a seal that no one has been able to break. The seal was made by the strongest wizards, but Lloyd easily breaks it and enters. Once inside the forbidden library, he is thrilled and starts reading the books there to uncover their secrets. Suddenly, a book flies into the air and he hears a strange voice. We learn that the voice belongs to a demon named Grimoire, who has been sealed away. The Magic King was shocked to see Lloyd break the seal on the door and enter. However, Lloyd was unafraid and approached him confidently. The demon asked Lloyd to break his seal so he could be free, and in return, he would give him as much gold as he wanted. But Lloyd realized the gold was fake, merely magic turning dust into gold. Demon Grimoire was astonished that Lloyd could so easily see through his trick. Lloyd refused to break the seal, explaining that all the magic books were in the kingdom, and if the demon escaped, he could destroy them, removing Lloyd's chance to learn all the magic in those books. The demon assured him that he had no business with the kingdom, but Lloyd still refused. Grimoire then exploited Lloyd's love for magic, offering to teach him ancient magic. Obsessed with magic, Lloyd was trapped by the offer. Grimoire praised Lloyd's magical talent, reminding Lloyd of a wizard who once killed him, saying Lloyd didn't have enough magic talent. Without hesitation, Lloyd created a key in seconds and broke the demon's seal. After breaking the seal, Lloyd asked Grimoire to fulfill his promise and teach him magic. However, the demon attacked him with powerful magic. Strangely, the attack had no effect on Lloyd, as he was protected by a very strong magic barrier. From inside the barrier, Lloyd praised the demon's magic and asked to learn it. Grimoire became furious and continued attacking Lloyd with tremendous magical power, but all efforts were in vain as Lloyd's barrier absorbed the attacks. Lloyd, on the other hand, was impressed by the magic's power and wanted to try it himself. He absorbed Grimoire's magic, feeling it in his fingers. Though it was painful, he delighted in experiencing the new magic. Grimoire became even angrier and used his strongest magic, but still, it had no effect on Lloyd. Lloyd began analyzing and studying its power, while the demon started feeling desperate and exhausted, realizing that attacking Lloyd was futile. He tried to escape, but Lloyd had already set up a barrier to prevent his escape and protect the important objects in the kingdom from destruction. Desperate, Grimoire finally surrendered and admitted defeat. Lloyd then used his magical powers to restore everything to its original state and repair the damage to the library in just seconds. Grimoire, shocked by Lloyd's abilities, acknowledged that from now on, Lloyd was his master, and he would serve him loyally. Lloyd was thrilled with the offer and decided to experiment with Grimoire's magic, realizing that demons couldn't die from magic. However, Lloyd realized that Grimoire, in his terrifying form, couldn't wander around with him because it would attract attention. Lloyd then used magic to transform Grimoire into a cute little goat so he could hide inside his clothes. Grimoire considered entering Lloyd's body to control him but was shocked to find an immense mana force within Lloyd, as if a terrifying monster resided inside him. Grimoire grew frightened and decided to follow Lloyd's orders. Lloyd then resumed reading the magic books when his brother, Alberto, came and said, "I knew you'd be in the library." Alberto was puzzled by Lloyd's love for magic books, and Grimoire asked who he was. Lloyd replied that it was his brother, Prince Alberto, renowned for his swordsmanship and the strongest candidate to be the next king. Alberto invited Lloyd to the training grounds in the kingdom. There, Alberto demonstrated his magic abilities, skillfully targeting wooden boards, leaving all the servants in awe of his power and precision. Grimoire then realized that using magic spells was forbidden within the kingdom. When it was Lloyd's turn, he thought that if he used his full power, he might attract the attention of everyone in the kingdom, which could ruin Alberto's chances of becoming king. Uninterested in power, Lloyd decided to carefully control his magic, ensuring the fireballs he created would only touch the wooden boards without destroying them. Grimoire warned him that redirecting magic was harder than destroying it. Nonetheless, Lloyd succeeded, impressing all the servants and his brother with his precision. Lloyd and the demon Grimoire said that they were just a group of fools interested in a ridiculous game like archery. Grimoire also mentioned that Lloyd managed to convince them that he could intentionally scratch the wooden board, and said that Lloyd was obsessed with magic. Here, Lloyd was happy because he succeeded in moving the fireball and shooting everything at the board without spending much mana. After that, his brother decided to leave and said, "I'm going to take a break. If you want to play now, enjoy your life." When they left, Lloyd was pleased that the shooting range was empty, allowing him to play freely. Lloyd told Grimoire that there were many things he wanted to try, like the double-faced spell Grimoire used on him when they were in the Forbidden Library. Grimoire said that to use that, Lloyd would need 2 mouths, not 1. Lloyd replied casually, "That's easy. I'm ready to try your magic now." Lloyd immediately used a strange spell that could shrink Grimoire and put him in his hand. Grimoire was shocked and thought, who in their right mind would let a demon become part of their body? Grimoire said that Lloyd was reckless, but even though Grimoire was now part of his body, he couldn't control or harm him because Lloyd's body held a vast amount of mana. Lloyd then asked Grimoire, "Can you now use the fireball spell?" Grimoire replied, "Be careful, I am a very powerful demon and can cast high-level spells." Lloyd said, "Enough talking, just show me what you can do." However, as soon as Grimoire started casting the spell, he was overwhelmed by the numerous spells being uttered simultaneously, causing him to spasm and panic. Lloyd asked what had happened, and Grimoire said, "What are all these spells I'm seeing?" Lloyd explained that he was using a technique called spell stacking, which allowed him to combine several spells into one to save time. Lloyd said he cast 100 spells at once, leaving Grimoire astonished and thinking his head might explode from the sheer number of spells. Grimoire admitted that he could only cast 1 or 2 spells at a time. Lloyd thought for a moment and asked, "Can I use your mouth to cast spells with me?" Grimoire responded, "That's fine, as long as it's no more than 2 spells. Lloyd then cast the double spell that Grimoire usually used, but Lloyd's version was far stronger, employing extremely high-level magic. Lloyd successfully cast the double spell, but he said he couldn't shoot it at the ground as it would cause massive destruction, so he created a strong barrier and fired the spell into the sky. Later, some nobles spoke with Lloyd's brother, Alberto, and asked, "Why are you also impressed with Lloyd, the 7th son?" They inquired what made him so special. Alberto explained that although Lloyd's spells were unbalanced, he could hit all the wooden targets, even the furthest ones, and said that Lloyd was a genius who would become a legendary mage in the future. They also asked, as the future ruler, what he thought of Lloyd. As Lloyd walked, he realized the explosion in the sky had caused a large hole, so he used his magic to seal the void. Later, Lloyd was seen sitting in the library with Grimoire, reading the news. Grimoire was surprised and said, "This is the first time I've seen you interested in reading the news instead of magic books." Lloyd replied that he had read all the magic books and learned a lot from them. Grimoire then pointed out a news article about a group of ranked adventurers who had completed a mission in the dungeon city and managed to obtain a lot of treasure and magical tools. Lloyd asked, "How about we go there to get the same rewards?" Grimoire answered, "A prince can't go out alone. And don't forget that you're banned from using magic after the huge explosion during the last training." Lloyd responded that he could solve that problem with a magic trick. He then pulled out a small pill that, when pressed, transformed into an identical clone of himself. Lloyd said that with a bit of adjustment and training, the clone could mimic his movements perfectly. Grimoire agreed that the issue was solved, and they could now leave. However, Lloyd said that the real problem lay with his teacher, Sylvia, who kept monitoring all his movements, including his height and weight. Lloyd tried to teach his clone to imitate all his actions so Sylvia wouldn't notice any changes. Before leaving, Lloyd separated part of Grimoire's body and placed it inside the clone so that he could communicate with Grimoire while outside the kingdom. Lloyd then fled the kingdom, and during his journey, he spoke with a duplicate to get news from there. Grimoire, who was in the duplicate, assured him that everything was under control, and no one suspected them yet. Grimoire took this opportunity to separate his soul and place it inside the duplicate so he could monitor the situation in the kingdom. Grimoire, now inside the duplicate, was surprised that he could also imbue magic power into it. He felt pleased that Lloyd wasn't around and thought this was his chance. No one could stop him. However, Lloyd suddenly spoke to him and said, "I'm glad I can rely on you, my pet." Grimoire felt that Lloyd trusted him and didn't want to cause any trouble. Grimoire said, "Hurry up and finish your business and come back." After leaving the kingdom, Lloyd stood in the middle of the forest, unsure of where the dungeon was. He thought that if someone was around, he could ask for directions. Suddenly, a dust storm appeared beneath him, and he saw 3 giant orc monsters chasing a girl. Grimoire asked, "What's happening? Is someone being attacked?" It turned out the girl was a ninja, and she quickly defeated the orcs, making them look like fried potatoes and shawarma sandwiches. Lloyd was amazed at the girl's magical power and extraordinary abilities. Lloyd said, "I've heard that some people can use the power of Kai, which allows them to control their breathing to gain incredible strength." After the girl defeated the orcs, she told them they would need years more to defeat a fighter like Kara. Lloyd thought of approaching her to ask about the dungeon and the power of Kai, but Grimoire warned him not to reveal his identity. At the same time, Kara sensed someone watching her, and she managed to find their hiding place. She quickly approached them, and as soon as she arrived, Lloyd hurriedly changed his clothes. He then introduced himself as Roberto, a new adventurer. Of course, we know he can change his appearance and identity through illusion magic. When Kara saw him, she was very impressed and immediately fell in love with him. Lloyd said he was a low-ranking adventurer and asked her to accompany him into the cave to kill all the monsters and help him. They entered one of the caves, and Kara easily killed the monsters inside, allowing Lloyd to collect the rewards and treasures. While they were sitting at night, eating, he started asking about the ability of Kai and how to breathe properly. Kara explained how to use the breathing technique to enhance strength. Lloyd tried the breathing technique and felt something strange in his body, different from magic. He thought this was a good thing, as he could combine the abilities of Kai and magic. Later, we see Lloyd back in the kingdom, eating, when suddenly his teacher, Sylvia, arrived to check on him. Lloyd was afraid his teacher would discover his secret. Next, we return to Lloyd and Kara entering a new cave. There, Kara taught Lloyd a new technique called Kai Shot, which allowed him to kill monsters from a distance. After they killed the monsters inside, they found a treasure chest. As they approached and tried to open it, Lloyd was suddenly attacked by a powerful strike. Lloyd quickly shielded Kara and dodged the attack. The treasure chest opened, revealing a skeleton-shaped monster. Lloyd was eager to test his strength. He asked Kara about the monster, but Kara suggested they leave the cave immediately, as she would handle the monster herself. Lloyd wanted to see the Kai technique Kara used to fight the monster, but Kara kicked him out of the cave. The monster used its magic to attack Kara, but she managed to dodge it. Kara was surprised that such a strong monster was inside a cave that was supposed to be low level. She tried to buy time so that Lloyd could get out of the cave. Lloyd was thrown into the air and didn't understand why Kara had pushed him out. However, he decided to return and see how Kara used her Kai techniques to battle the strange monster. While talking to Grimoire to check on things at home, Grimoire urged him to return immediately because the situation had become chaotic. We return to Kara, who is extremely exhausted and realizes that he won't be able to defeat the monster. However, the monster begins mocking Kara, calling his Kai technique weak. The monster says that it has defeated someone with the same technique before. Kara, feeling angry because the monster praises Lloyd but belittles him, launches an attack with all his strength using Kai shot. He thinks he has won, but the monster laughs at him. Lloyd arrives just in time, protecting Kara with a magic circle. Filled with determination, Lloyd decides to fight the monster using the Kai technique he has learned. Lloyd starts moving at high speed, distancing himself from Kara to avoid hurting him. After that, he takes a deep breath to initiate his attack using the Kai technique, creating a magic barrier to fend off the monster's attack. Once he has mastered the technique, Lloyd strikes the monster, shattering its magic attack. However, Lloyd is not satisfied with his power and decides to increase the intensity of his attack. He continues to assault the monster with numerous rapid Kai punches. The monster is shocked by the strength of Lloyd's attacks, far stronger than anything it had faced before. Finally, Lloyd uses his most powerful Kai technique, Kai Shot, and destroys the monster's magic barrier, slicing it in two. Kara is thrilled that Lloyd managed to defeat the monster and save him. When they open the treasure chest in the cave, they only find an old dagger. They realize that the powerful monster was only there to guard the dagger. Suddenly, the cave begins to collapse. They rush out before the cave is completely destroyed. Once outside, Kara asks Lloyd why he never told him that he was a powerful wizard. He also comments on the final technique Lloyd used against the monster, Kai Shot, noting that Lloyd used it with much greater strength than he did. Train hard so that one day you can reach Lloyd's level of power. When he returns, he finds his version of events broken and in chaos. At that moment, the demon Grimmer tells him that his trainer, Sylvia, noticed a decline in Lloyd's abilities during training. Because of this, she kept training him non-stop to restore his original strength. Lloyd then tries to console Grimmer after taking a serious hit. Afterward, Grimmer asks Lloyd if the only thing he gathered all this time was the weak, rusty dagger. However, when Lloyd places the dagger into the magical water, he discovers a spell inscribed on it. The spell, when applied to any weapon, enhances and increases its power. Lloyd then decides to break the spell to analyze it, learn its ingredients, and use it on the royal army's swords. He begins analyzing the spell and finds that it consists of oil and silver. Lloyd then goes to the king's father to ask for a large amount of silver coins. The king asks him, "What are you going to do with all this money?" However, Lloyd doesn't answer and simply leaves after getting the money. Lloyd also resumes training with Sylvia, where she promises that if he can defeat her, he will get the oil he needs. But, as usual, Lloyd loses the fight. Despite this, the kind-hearted Sylvia still gives him the oil he wanted and tells him that she's happy Lloyd has returned to his original level of strength. On the other hand, Grimmer is furious and confused because he can't defeat Sylvia, even though he is a powerful demon king. Lloyd then uses iron and silver to craft a spell as strong as the one on the dagger he found in the cave. After that, he goes to his brother, Alberto, and asks for all the swords the guards possess to try out his new experiment. The guards are initially hesitant because Lloyd is still a child, but Alberto agrees and gives him the swords. Lloyd begins experimenting with the swords, but 3/4 of them break. Only a few successfully absorb his magic spell. He then returns to his brother and reports that the experiment is complete. But unfortunately, most of the swords broke, and only a few survived. When Alberto examines the swords, he finds that their strength has increased by 10%. Alberto looks at Lloyd and realizes that his younger brother is very talented and intelligent. However, one of the guards still doubts what Lloyd has done and claims that the sword remains the same, with no difference. But when the guard places the sword in its sheath, he is shocked as the sheath is torn in two by the sword's power. Alberto examines the sword and finds an immense magical energy within it. Lloyd then tells Alberto that he wants to use the sword on their new mission. Along with Alberto, they embark on the mission given by their father to hunt monsters in the forest. Lloyd is thrilled when his brother invites him on this mission, especially since it's his first time being allowed to leave the palace. On the way, they ask Sylvia if the monsters are in the forest, and Sylvia replies that they are near the lake, not the forest. Lloyd is excited because it's the first time he's been allowed to hunt magical monsters, and he wants to test out the swords he crafted. Alberto took advantage of the moment when Sylvia was focused on Lloyd, as her eyes were constantly on him. Sylvia then thanked Lloyd for inviting her on this hunting journey. Alberto chimed in, saying that Sylvia was Lloyd's only trainer in the kingdom, so it would be impossible for her to bring Lloyd without being present. He also mentioned that Sylvia seemed interested in the magical swords Lloyd had made and wanted to see the results. Embarrassed, Sylvia replied that the most important thing to her was protecting Lloyd. Alberto jokingly suggested that Sylvia might like Lloyd as more than just a student, which made Sylvia blush and immediately draw her sword. At that moment, a group of armed wolves attacked Alberto, but the guards warned that the wolves' weapons were very strong. Lloyd then remarked that they should consider these wolves as a warm-up to test their swords. Grimmer asked if Lloyd knew the wolves were coming, and Lloyd confirmed that he had detected them using a Kai technique he had learned from Tao to sense the location of enemies. Eagerly, Lloyd and Grimmer prepared to fight, while one of the guards swiftly sliced a wolf in half with his sword. Meanwhile, he hid inside a tent until the magical monsters appeared. Upon entering, he found Sylvia inside. Sylvia said, "I'll stay with you tonight to protect you, as the guards are only tasked with protecting Alberto." However, he responded, "I don't need protection." When he tried to leave, Sylvia immediately pulled him back and said, "You will stay here tonight because there are dangerous magical monsters outside that could threaten your life." Suddenly, Tao entered the tent, finding the two of them there, and quickly apologized. Tao said, "I thought Roberto was here because I sensed him." However, Sylvia grew annoyed and said, "You really like interfering," and the two began arguing. During this commotion, Lloyd took the opportunity to try to escape. Afterward, Alberto arrived and said, "Don't get involved in girl problems, their issues never end." Then, we learned that Tao was there to repair one of the temples on the hill. Sylvia told him, "Don't waste time, go and do your job." But Alberto warned, "If you leave now, your life will be in danger. Stay with us until dawn when the magical monsters appear." Tao replied, "I can use my tracking ability to detect if any monsters are nearby." Suddenly, a terrifying and strange-looking monster appeared in front of them, saying, "No need to search for me." Naturally, they were all scared, but Lloyd was excited to see it. The monster quickly attacked the guards, and Lloyd noticed how fast it was. When he asked Grimoire about the monster, he saw Grimoire staring at the temple on the hill. Tao immediately attacked the monster using her Kai technique, but it had no effect. Then, Alberto stepped in and used his fire magic to defeat the magical wolf. Alberto said to the monster, "Your presence here poses a great threat to our kingdom." He used his fire magic to attack the wolf, successfully burning it, and everyone was relieved that they had defeated the monster. However, they were shocked when the wolf laughed and rose again. From its body emerged a strange demon who had been controlling the wolf. Grimoire then explained that the wolf was controlled by a magical demon who had broken the seal at the temple on the hill. The demon used a magic called Nature Shift to control all the magical monsters, and this magic caused the wolves to regard the demon as their father. The magic implanted in the wolves gave them incredible regenerative abilities, and the demon controlled them from afar using something like magical chains. Grimoire told Lloyd, "If you don't defeat the demon, these wolves will never stop." Lloyd then asked Grimoire, "Since you're also a demon, teach me the Nature Shift magic." Grimoire replied, "You want to learn magic now, while your friends are fighting those monsters and could lose their lives." Meanwhile, Tao asked Sylvia to help them instead of just standing there watching. The demon controlling the wolves wondered why Sylvia was simply standing still, protecting a small child behind her. Even Tao was surprised to see Sylvia not moving. Suddenly, Sylvia said to Lloyd, "May I leave you for a moment?" Lloyd, who was busy learning Nature Shift magic from Grimoire, barely paid attention and replied, "Go as you please." Sylvia then approached the magical demon, who said to her, "So you've finally agreed to leave the child and become one of my servants." But Sylvia moved closer with her sword and said, "I'm forced to kill you." The demon responded, "Show me how you plan to kill me if you can." The demon also said that any wounds it received would heal completely with its magic, and it laughed at Sylvia, saying she could never win. Sylvia merely smiled, waiting for the demon to finish talking. As the demon tried to attack her, Sylvia was already behind it and managed to cut off its leg with her sword. As the demon tried to use its regenerative magic, Sylvia noticed that the regeneration was much slower than before. She also remarked that the demon's movements had slowed down. Alberto realized that if they managed to injure the wolves controlled by the demon, the wolves' regeneration would slow down. Meanwhile, Grimoire continued training Lloyd in the Nature Shift magic until Lloyd finally mastered it. He was able to change the shape and color of his body using the newly learned magic and even managed to create a fragrant flower. Meanwhile, Sylvia continued fighting against the wolves and the demon. She approached one of the guards and asked for her sword, as it held a spell given by Lloyd. The guard quickly handed it over without hesitation, shocked by Sylvia's strength. The demon controlling the wolves then moved rapidly around Sylvia, threatening to kill Lloyd and chop him into tiny pieces. Suddenly, the demon attacked Sylvia, thinking it had devoured her. However, Sylvia was inside its body, and swiftly she stabbed the demon with her sword, managing to pull out the wolf's head hidden within. She leaped towards it with her sword and immediately plunged it into its body. Literally, she cut the wolf into many pieces until the demon grew scared and left the wolf's body. She said, "This is the sword you underestimated, crafted by Prince Lloyd." At that moment, Lloyd had mastered nature-altering magic and was able to mimic Sylvia's servant. We see Sylvia approaching the demon and saying, "Prepare to pay for mocking Prince Lloyd." Then we see the demon laughing cynically as if it had something worse planned. At that moment, Sylvia said to it, "You should surrender now." Suddenly, Sylvia felt a black mist spreading around them, and we realized the demon was releasing it from its mouth. At the same time, we see Alberto and Tao successfully defeating the remaining wild wolves, and the guards cheered as they overcame them. However, Alberto told them that the monsters would rise again unless they killed their leader who controlled them. Then, the black mist reached Alberto and the other guards, and we saw them unable to breathe and faint. Even Sylvia collapsed after inhaling the smoke. The demon then stood up again and said to them, "I've spent 1,000 years taming these monsters and bringing them under my control, and you think you can just come and defeat me?" It then struck Sylvia with a powerful blow, sending her flying. We see Alberto trying to rise to save Sylvia, but he couldn't move due to the mist surrounding him. The demon spoke to Sylvia, saying, "Anyone who inhales this smoke will fall under my control, and I can command them." We see Sylvia refusing to give up, angering the demon further, and it tried to finish her off. However, Tao rushed in to save her. Though severely injured, Sylvia couldn't suppress her frustration toward Tao and asked her to leave. Tao, angered, said, "Even in this pitiful state, you're still arrogant and proud." She added, "If you have a chance to escape, you should take it now because you won't be able to defeat him." The demon claimed that no one could escape the power of its black mist, but it was puzzled why Tao remained standing and unaffected. It approached her and asked, "How are you not under my control?" Tao then attempted to strike it, but it blocked her blow, grabbed her, and struck her hard, suspending her upside down. The demon realized Tao was using a special breathing technique to resist the mist. It said, "You had a chance to escape, but clearly you're a fool." However, Tao, furious, struck the demon with great force, sending it flying. She said, "I will never leave anyone handsome who needs my help," then used her special attack called Thunderquake, launching the demon into the air. Tao appeared exhausted after expending a lot of her Kai energy. Suddenly, one of the wolves bit her, and the other wolves began to revive. The demon approached her and asked, "Who is this handsome man you're talking about and want to protect?" It said, "If you look around, everyone under you has fainted and can't move. I have completely taken control of them." The demon then said, "I'm the only handsome man in front of you now." It began using the black mist again to try and control her this time. However, Tao said, "I'm sure Roberto is nearby because I can sense his energy." The demon asked, "Who are you talking about?" Tao replied, "Just wait, he'll come and roast you any moment now." At that moment, Lloyd had mastered nature-altering magic and successfully controlled one of the wolves, returning it to its original form. The demon was suddenly shocked to see Lloyd and asked, "Who are you, boy? How are you here? I've never seen you before." Of course, it was surprised because Lloyd could move through the mist without harm. When the demon saw Grimoire, it realized Lloyd was a wizard. The demon tried to escape, saying, "What will you gain by trapping me?" Lloyd responded, "Don't even try to run because you won't be able to. You must pay for what you've done to these wolf families." Lloyd then used high-level magic, combining all the spells he had learned into one, gathering all the forces of nature to seal the crystal and destroy the demon within. Though he hadn't finished casting all his spells, he could feel the demon's power beginning to fade. When he stopped using the spell, he saw the demon completely dissolving inside the crystal, starting to evaporate and disappear. The demon said, "I have spent 1,000 years learning extremely powerful magic, but I didn't expect that a kid like you could defeat me so easily." Lloyd realized that his brother, Albert, and the guards were beginning to regain consciousness, so he ran to find a reason to make it seem like he was the one who had defeated the demon, ensuring no one would know his secret. At the same time, we see the demon Grimoire speaking to the dying demon and saying, "I told you that you'd end up like roasted meat, but don't worry, one day I will avenge you." Then he devoured the demon to absorb its energy, and at that moment, he began to glow with immense power. He said, "This is the first step toward destroying Lloyd and taking revenge on him." Lloyd then spoke with his brother, Alberto, and said that Tao's friend, Roberto, was actually the one who killed the demon, but he left quickly afterward. They returned to the kingdom and were welcomed with a celebration by the citizens for capturing the magic monster and defeating the powerful demon. When they met their father, the king, he was, of course, surprised by Alberto's abilities and said, "I can't believe that you managed to kill such a strong demon." However, Alberto honestly admitted that it wasn't him, but a female warrior named Tao and her friend Roberto who had killed the demon, although they left before he could see or thank them. Alberto also told their father that Lloyd had great power and should be considered a candidate for the throne. He said, "If I am not worthy to be king, then Lloyd is the most suitable for it." Their father replied, "All right, I will consider your suggestion. From now on, Lloyd will compete for the title of king." Lloyd left happily, and suddenly a wolf from the forest decided to follow him. However, Lloyd didn't know how to communicate with or command the wolf. He then asked Sylvia how to control the wolf and make it obey. Sylvia said that he needed to learn how to tame monsters and that there were experts in that field who could teach him. Lloyd was thrilled because he had finally found something new to learn. He started teaching the wolf some basic commands like shaking hands, sitting, and standing. However, when Lloyd gave more complex commands, the wolf didn't understand. Sylvia reminded him that taming monsters was a skill that required special training. Lloyd then tried using his magic to train the wolf by writing commands in the air. He ordered the wolf to spin 30 times in place, but the wolf ended up doing something silly instead. Sylvia suggested that Lloyd speak the commands aloud while casting a spell, but that didn't work either. Lloyd realized that this training was very difficult and required someone truly skilled. They then thought of someone who could help them. They went to the gardens of King Isles VI to meet the king's daughter, as she was the only one who could help tame the wolf. The demon Grimoire was amazed by the size of the garden and asked, "Whose garden is this?" Lloyd replied, "It belongs to my sister, who is 3 years older than me. She loves caring for magical monsters, animals, and reptiles, and she's the only one who can control them." Soon after, Lloyd's sister, Isles, came running toward him. She hugged Lloyd so tightly that it almost made him faint. Isles' servant shouted at her, "Every time you see Lloyd, you hug him until he passes out." After sitting together, Lloyd explained that he had come to ask for help in taming the wolf, which he named Shiro. Isles was surprised because the wolf was so sweet and easy to manage. Lloyd then asked Isles to teach him how to give commands to Shiro. Isles replied, "Stop whining like a child. I will teach you my secret technique." She said that her secret technique was love. "If you have love, you can easily tame any monster," she said. Lloyd then saw that all the magical monsters gathered around Isles, hugging and playing with her. Isles' servant, who disliked animals, felt disturbed because the monsters kept teasing him, making him very upset. Lloyd began learning the techniques taught by Sylvia, and he started interacting with the animals with love and care. The animals began gathering around Lloyd, and Sylvia felt that Lloyd would succeed in mastering the secret technique possessed by her sister, Elise. Lloyd noticed that as the magical monsters moved away from Elise, mana energy flowed from her head towards the monsters. Lloyd remarked that the control wasn't from her fingers but from her head. Afterward, using the love-based technique he learned from Elise, Lloyd managed to tame a wolf named Yarrow, and they became close friends. Later, we see Lloyd with his brother, Alberto, visiting the workshop of the fourth prince, Diane. Diane asked Alberto if Lloyd had used magic on his sword. Alberto confirmed, but Diane, annoyed, said that they would see if Lloyd's magic was truly as strong as claimed or just a mere trick. Alberto then began telling Lloyd Diane's story, that when Diane was 10 years old, he was obsessed with magic swords and even loved blacksmithing. Despite being a prince, Diane decided to leave the kingdom to learn everything about magic swords. As Alberto told the story, Diane became angry and said that his story wasn't that important to discuss. Diane then placed a sword in front of Lloyd and asked him to use his magic on the sword to test its strength. Diane thought Lloyd, who was only 7, seemed arrogant, and this was the perfect time to teach him an important lesson. Diane asked Lloyd to show his skills but warned him not to hurt himself while using magic. Inside, Diane thought that magic was a high-level skill that was difficult for a 7-year-old to master. Lloyd began using his magic on the sword Diane gave him, and to everyone's surprise, Lloyd completed the magic spell very quickly. Alberto was shocked by Lloyd's incredible speed and said he had never seen a magic sword created that fast. When Diane read the skills engraved on the sword, he found many abilities such as increased strength, flexibility, automatic techniques, and self-repair. Diane was astonished and thought Lloyd had essentially completed the whole game in the world of magic. Diane, who had failed all his life to master magic, was amazed by Lloyd's abilities. He remembered that as a child, he had always dreamed of creating a powerful magic sword and giving it to the kingdom's soldiers. Lloyd, motivated by Diane's story, promised to help him make more magic swords. They started working on creating a sword that could use firepower, but each time they tried, the sword would break because Lloyd was overloading it with too much magic. Diane tried to comfort Lloyd, saying they would eventually succeed in making a magic sword, even if they faced many difficulties. Lloyd realized he was running out of magical materials, and Diane offered to help find the necessary supplies. They then decided that Lloyd would leave the castle to hunt magical monsters and gather the required materials. Sylvia asked Diane to go to the royal dungeon to hunt magical monsters instead, but Diane refused, feeling it wasn't fitting for a prince to do such a task. Sylvia then informed Lloyd that she had requested permission from the king for Lloyd to leave the kingdom to broaden his horizons and develop his skills. The king agreed and even liked the idea. Sylvia told Lloyd that the next step was to join the Adventurers Guild. Lloyd then went to the Adventurers Guild, where the guild's secretary welcomed him and gave him a form to fill out. Lloyd, wanting to hide his strength, reduced his mana levels to get the lowest ranking in the guild. When they measured his power, Lloyd received an E rank. Some adventurers began mocking Lloyd because an E rank is usually given to small and weak creatures, and they were surprised that someone from the royal family had such low power. However, the guild secretary noticed that Lloyd's mana was actually immense, even though he was ranked low. She reassured Lloyd and told him that over time, his strength would grow. Meanwhile, a rough adventurer tried to flirt with Sylvia, but Sylvia quickly cut off his mustache with her sword. The guild secretary then introduced Sylvia as the Silver Sword Princess, which terrified the other adventurers due to her strong reputation. With lightning speed, she appeared behind the sly girl and asked, "Who are you really?" Naturally, the girl was shocked by her incredible speed and tried to flee quickly. However, a greater surprise awaited her as she found herself trapped in a powerful barrier created by Lloyd to stop her from escaping and to find out who she really was. Suddenly, the girl began to reveal her true identity, and Lloyd was shocked to discover that she was a girl. But even stranger, she used an unusual type of magic that produced poison floating in the air. As soon as Lloyd inhaled it, he began to feel dizzy, and when he tried to dispel the poison, he couldn't. Afterward, we are introduced to the girl, named Rin, a member of the Guild of Infiltrators. Rin then said to him, "You won't be able to dispel my poison, not even with the purification magic you're trying to use now." Lloyd said that his purification magic should be able to remove poison generated from mana. However, since he couldn't, he was sure that this girl was using something other than mana. Rin replied, "Exactly, because I was born with a very strange magic that allows me to produce large amounts of poison." We then see her place her foot on Lloyd's barrier and begin to melt it. After that, she delivered a powerful blow that shattered the barrier. Lloyd, still in awe, continued to watch her, curious about the strange technique she was using. After destroying the barrier, Rin said that Lloyd wouldn't die because she had only used a small amount of poison. After saying that, she fled. Lloyd, still mesmerized, watched her, and then Grimmer, the demon, appeared, ensuring Lloyd was okay, and told him to stop being so captivated. After that, we learned that Lloyd started to recover from the poison through his healing magic. Grimmer then asked, "Why did you let her escape?" Lloyd replied, "I let her go because I wanted to know where their base is." We then learned that while Lloyd was at the Adventurers Guild, he heard from Sylvia's attendant about a guild called the Guild of Infiltrators, made up of 6 members. Each member of this guild had incredible skills and strength, and Rin was one of them. Lloyd was very excited to meet them and learn all their skills. Soon, he used his super speed to chase after Rin and find their base. Not long after, Sylvia arrived late, not knowing what had just happened. Meanwhile, Rin had arrived at the Infiltrator Guild's base. They were discussing that their leader had disappeared, and they didn't know where he was. While talking, they realized that Lloyd was hiding above them, listening to their conversation, much to Rin's surprise, as she couldn't believe Lloyd had managed to catch up with her, despite her speed. Once the guild members saw him, they realized that he was Prince Lloyd, the 7th prince, known for his extraordinary abilities and surrounded by many rumors. They also knew that Lloyd was the creator of the powerful magic sword currently used by the royal army. After realizing that Lloyd knew their base, the guild members said, "There's no way we'll let you leave here." But they didn't know that Lloyd had placed a large barrier around them to prevent their escape. Lloyd then used Tao's Kai technique and said, "Come, heroes, show me your magic power one by one." They were shocked by Lloyd's strength. One of the guild members quickly attacked him, but Lloyd easily parried the attack. When the guild member tried to attack him from behind, Lloyd still handled it with ease. Lloyd acknowledged that the man had incredible abilities and speed as he managed to bind Lloyd's hands with his scarf. The man was named Babel, and he had the remarkable ability to control his body and perform any movement he desired. With their power, and of course, due to this happening often, they eventually all cried. It was because they couldn't control their power and ended up hurting everyone. That's why they were called the Guild of Madmen, all thanks to Lloyd. While talking to him, their leader, who had been missing for a long time, appeared. His name was Jane, and we learned that the reason he had disappeared was because he got lost in the desert and couldn't find his way back. He told them that the Adventurer Guild had decided to review our documents, and there was a chance they would pardon us and we could live normal lives again. Jane's nickname was the Phantom because he had the ability to teleport instantly, and he could disappear at any time. And it's true, Jane suddenly disappeared, and they didn't know where he went. At that moment, Lloyd was very curious about Jane's teleportation ability. Suddenly, a magical letter appeared before them, and they all vanished. After that, Sylvia arrived to rescue Lloyd, but she didn't find him there, only a note he had left behind. She took the note and gave it to Berto, and when he read it, he found out that Lloyd had gone with the Mad Guild to a place called Lost. Berto was extremely worried and felt that the Mad Guild had kidnapped Lloyd to get rid of him. He said that Lloyd was now their captive, and they must go to Lost to wage war against them and save Lloyd. They all agreed to go to war with Lost, and they were very excited. Afterward, we see Lloyd flying in the air with the Mad Guild, and Lloyd was eager to go to Lost to meet Jane and get information about his teleportation technique. Of course, Lloyd used his flying technique to reach Lost quickly. However, after only 10 minutes, he realized that the entire Mad Guild was exhausted and couldn't keep up with him in flight. So, he stopped in the forest near Jane's castle so they could rest for a while. They asked, "How fast do you fly?" We see Babel completely drained and unable to move due to the incredible speed. Even Ren was wrapped in cloth to prevent her poison from leaking out during their flight. After that, they decided to rest in the forest, and Ren prepared food for them, but they were too afraid to eat it, fearing it was poisoned. However, Lloyd ate Ren's food without hesitation, and it turned out to be delicious. Lloyd asked for more, and eventually, the other members of the Mad Guild also ate without fear. After eating, Lloyd fell asleep on the back of a giant spider, and even though he was still a child, he could use all kinds of magic. He looked very peaceful while sleeping. The demon Grimoire then told them that he hadn't slept for several days because he had been making a magic sword for his brother. He said that Lloyd wasn't cute and might even cause trouble while sleeping. After that, they continued their journey to Jane's castle to meet him. They decided to leave Lloyd alone in the forest so he could sleep and rest for a while. They asked Grimoire to stay with him, but he said not to worry because Lloyd was strong even while asleep. They arrived at the top of the castle and began observing the situation from a distance, seeing many people preparing for a grand feast. They didn't know what was happening and wondered if the feast was being held to welcome them. Suddenly, someone appeared behind them and asked if they were from the Mad Assassin Guild. They were surprised and saw themselves surrounded by people who seemed to be celebrating their arrival, saying that the Lord's guests had arrived to meet him. They wanted to inform Lloyd about everything before getting caught up in this meeting. When they were offered food as a welcome, they asked Ren to check if it was poison-free. They decided to secretly send the demon Grimoire to inform Lloyd. But Ren quickly caught him and asked him to stay with them because she was very anxious to meet Jane. Suddenly, Jane appeared and greeted them, saying he didn't expect them to arrive so soon. Jane quickly changed his clothes, and they were surprised, asking if he had fully recovered his strength. Jane replied, "Yes, that's right." He told them that he had been training hard to control his power, and they were so happy, even crying because Jane was now fine and able to control his abilities. However, Grimoire escaped from Ren and decided to go tell Lloyd everything, as he felt something was very strange about Jane and the people with him. Suddenly, Jane used powerful gravity magic and started controlling them, making them all fall to the ground. They were shocked and didn't understand why Jane was doing that. Jane said he could steal anyone's abilities if he wanted. Grimoire tried to help them and used his black laser cannon to attack Jane, urging them to run quickly, warning them that Jane was extremely dangerous. Jane immediately flew and kicked Grimoire hard, sending him flying far away. He said, "You're just a useless demon." Everyone was shocked by Jane's immense power. Meanwhile, Lloyd woke up from his sleep and was surprised to have slept so long. He found himself alone and didn't know where the others had gone. Suddenly, Grimoire came to him, badly battered, and said, "Quick, your friends are in danger. Jane is actually a very evil person and plans to make them all victims." Ren tried to ask Jane why he was doing this, but one of Jane's followers said, "Are you still foolish and don't understand?" We learned that all those beside Jane were demons who had taken over human bodies. Even Jane wasn't the Jane they knew, but a demon who had stolen his body. The demon said, "I'm happy to finally possess a human body with instant teleportation abilities." He began introducing himself as Zarm and said he was thrilled to meet them. He said he had spent a long time erasing Jane's consciousness and taking over his body. He revealed that he was very satisfied with the instant teleportation ability he had gained from Jane. She began telling them how Jane disappeared, but before she could finish, Ren became very angry and tried to attack her. However, she managed to defeat Ren and said that Jane's body was a perfect fit for a demon's body. She also mentioned that Jane attempted suicide as soon as he found out that his body would be taken over. But if Jane succeeded in killing himself, Zarm would also die. Zarm then explained that after he managed to take control of Jane's body, he healed all his wounds and prevented him from dying. Even though Jane kept trying to kill himself repeatedly, Ren was deeply moved by the story and cried. Zarm also revealed that after taking over Jane's body, he killed everyone in the kingdom and summoned all his demon followers to take control of their human bodies. After that, Zarm approached Ren and said he wanted to steal Ren's special ability. He told Ren that he had killed his family using his own poison, and now he was ready to finish him off. The members of the Wizards Guild tried to move quickly to stop him, but they couldn't move due to the gravity magic he activated. Suddenly, the demon noticed the mark on Rin's shoulder and said that the mark wasn't in Gain's memory. He asked if the mark on her shoulder was a magical spell, as he felt that someone was interfering with his plans. He tried to ask who placed the spell, but Rin remained silent. He continued to torture her, making Rin cry out in pain. Suddenly, Lloyd appeared above him. Lloyd cast a very powerful magic spell, destroying everything around him. However, he also created a magic circle around his friends so they wouldn't be affected by his magic. He spoke to the demon and said, "I'm the one who placed the magic spell on them." We see that Lloyd almost destroyed the entire palace. Then he descended to ensure Rin was okay and found out that Rin had tried to bite her tongue so she wouldn't speak. He said that Demon Grimoire had told him everything and advised, "Take your friends and leave now, because it's clear they're targeting you." They took Rin and fled while warning her. They told Lloyd that this demon wasn't alone and that many around him were also demons. They were sure Lloyd could defeat them and called him a terrifying monster. Later, we see the demons going to check if their leader was alright. The demon got up again and yelled at his followers, "What are you doing here? Why did you let them escape?" He ordered them to chase after them immediately or he would kill them himself. When Lloyd saw them running after him, he became very angry and used his magic again to attack them, terrifying all the demons. The demons were terrified by his magical power. They abandoned everything and attacked Lloyd, but he created a strong magic barrier to withstand their attacks. However, when the demon Gazarin attacked him, he found that his demonic power could penetrate Lloyd's magic barrier. Even so, the barrier didn't break, and Lloyd began to think of how to counter the attack. Grimoire warned him to avoid the attack immediately, and Lloyd dodged it. He began using his analysis magic to study the demon's attacks and realized that the attack could kill him if it hit. He realized that mana power couldn't withstand their attacks. Lloyd learned that the power these demons had was similar to the power the Wizards Guild had used against him. Grimoire explained that the demons were ranked, and the demon named Zuzu, whom Lloyd had killed, was ranked 8th. Grimoire's own power was ranked 3rd. Lloyd then asked if anyone held the first rank, but Grimoire told him that there were demons from noble families, and even 100 demons of the first rank couldn't defeat them. Gazarin asked Lloyd, "Who exactly are you?" Lloyd replied that he was just the 7th prince. Gazarin said that he seemed to be in Gain's memory, and that Gain wanted to meet him. Lloyd responded that he also wanted to meet Gain. Gazarin then reminded Lloyd of the destruction he had caused and asked him to make amends for the damage. Both of them were eager to fight each other. However, before Lloyd began fighting Gazarin, Grimoire warned him not to underestimate Gazarin's power, as he was stronger than any demon Lloyd had faced before. Gazarin wasted no time and immediately used his magic to create a powerful weapon and attack Lloyd. Lloyd quickly created a magic barrier to block Gazarin's attack, but to his surprise, the barrier was shattered by Gazarin's power. Even though Lloyd used 2 layers of magic to protect himself, it still wasn't enough. When Gazarin realized he had broken Lloyd's magic barrier, he used his magic to create many magical weapons and attacked Lloyd. Gazarin challenged Lloyd by saying, "Come on, show me if your barrier can withstand all this magic power." Lloyd had no choice but to dodge Gazarin's attacks and use his magic shield to protect himself from the powerful assault. Suddenly, Lloyd was shocked as Gazarin appeared on top of his magic shield using instant teleportation. While Lloyd was trying to figure out how to handle him, Gazarin struck the barrier with great force, shattering it. After that, Gazarin moved all the magical weapons he had created to attack Lloyd and kill him. However, Lloyd quickly cast a magic spell and summoned a giant stone monster from the ground to block Gazarin's magical attack. The members of the Wizard and Demon Guilds watched the battle between Lloyd and Gazarin in awe. Lloyd, feeling frustrated, told Gazarin that the instant teleportation ability didn't belong to him but to Gain, and that he had stolen it from Gain. Gazarin replied that Gain wasn't able to use the ability well, so he decided to take over his body and use his powers. Gazarin began to transform, unleashing all his magical power against Lloyd, challenging him, "What will you do now? Will you run like usual, or will you face my strength now?" Gazarin, being very cunning, suddenly made an arrow appear from underground and stabbed Lloyd. Gazarin laughed and said that he had successfully tricked him. Gazarin continued to attack him with magic arrows, laughing in satisfaction. Meanwhile, we return to the Wizard Guild members who were fleeing from the demons. The demons were incredibly fast and almost caught them. That's when one of the guild members used his magic to make the demons sticky to the ground, preventing them from chasing. Another member cast a gravity spell to slow down the demons' movements, buying time for the rest of the guild members to escape. Despite this, the demons were very strong and broke free from all the spells cast on them, resuming their pursuit. The guild member who used spider web magic was shocked and confused about what to do. However, another guild member appeared behind him and used her magic. Her ability allowed her to transfer her injuries to the demons. She asked her comrades to flee and leave her to face the demons. Each time the demons tried to heal from their wounds, the girl would injure herself again, causing the demons to get hurt again. Rin was deeply saddened to see her friend sacrifice herself and tried to help. But the Spider-Man always stopped her and closed the gate. Naturally, we saw all the demons begin to heal every time the girl hurt herself again. At that moment, the girl had an idea: to kill herself so the demons would die and be unable to heal again. When the demons saw the sword at her neck, they were terrified and rushed toward her to stop her from killing herself. However, the Spider-Man quickly used his magic to create a strong web to prevent them from approaching her. Meanwhile, Riem was trapped behind the gate and shouted at the girl, begging her not to kill herself. He was very scared for her safety. Then we returned to the demon Gazarin, who was laughing and feeling satisfied, thinking he had defeated Lloyd. But unfortunately for him, he didn't know that this young boy was a miracle. Suddenly, he heard Lloyd's voice behind him. Lloyd appeared with a sword in his hand and said, "Behold the greatness you're about to witness. The real fight starts now." Then we return to the Guild of Strange People, and we find out that Lloyd's brother, Alberto, arrived quickly and managed to protect them from the demons. He used the magic swords that Lloyd had previously crafted, and those swords were so powerful they literally burned all the demons. It turned out that Alberto didn't come alone. All his siblings came with him, including the servant Sylvia, who was in love with Lloyd. After that, Alberto said that they needed to protect the guild members and get them out of there. However, his brother, Diane, said that they had to defeat the demons first before helping anyone. Sylvia then stepped in and threatened the guild members, saying they must tell her where Lloyd was, or she would kill one of them every minute. Rin was terrified of Sylvia and almost said that Lloyd was with the demon king Gazarin, but her friend quickly stopped her, reminding her not to say anything. She recalled when they were with Lloyd, who told them, "If anyone from the kingdom comes asking about me, never tell them anything about my magical powers, because it would cause a lot of trouble for me. All I want is to meet with Jane to learn new magic techniques from him." When Sylvia saw that they were silent and didn't want to reveal Lloyd's location, she decided to kill one of them. But Rin quickly said that Lloyd was fighting somewhere far away against an evil demon. Sylvia became furious and believed that Rin was lying, planning to kill her. However, Alberto stopped her, asking her not to do anything. All the guild members then told Alberto that Lloyd was a very brave and strong boy, and he had decided to protect them even though they had once bullied him. Alberto was shocked to hear that Lloyd protected them, even after they had stripped his clothes and mocked him. The Spider-Man then explained that they didn't strip his clothes to bully him, but because his clothes were wet. Alberto heard this, but he wasn't sure whether to believe them. However, they said, "It's up to you whether you want to trust us or not, but we're also worried about Lloyd." After that, Riem explained to them that the demon Gazarin had possessed one of their friends, and that's why Lloyd was helping them and trying to save his friend. We then see the fox along with Lloyd's sister attacking one of the demons and killing it. She then told them that they should trust Rin and her followers, because if they were evil, the fox would have killed them just like it killed the demon. They must believe in her little brother Lloyd's abilities. Diane then said, "If you're so sure of him, why did you come with us to help him?" Suddenly, Alberto stopped the argument and said that they should focus on defeating the demons first, then help Lloyd afterward. They all then looked up and saw the magic circle belonging to the demon Gazarin. A huge explosion occurred, destroying the bridge they were standing on, and all the demons fell into the water. However, Alberto realized that the demons were trying to climb back up, so he said, "We need to move now, because if they get back up, we'll be in trouble." Then we see the demon Gazarin saying, "What do you think? Much better, right?" as he activated his magic again to attack Lloyd. Lloyd then flew quickly, and the demon Grimoire noticed that Lloyd was very worried about his siblings. Grimoire told him, "You need to focus on your fight, because the demon Gazarin is not easy to defeat." Lloyd agreed and said, "Grimoire is right. I need to focus on this fight against Gazarin, and I trust my siblings to handle the demons below." Next, we see Alberto using fire magic to attack the demons. He said, "I know that magic isn't effective against demons, but the fire magic's effect is stronger now than when I used it on the demon Bazuzo." However, it still wasn't enough to defeat them. Alberto was confused about what to do, and so was Diane. Diane said that her magic power was only average and wouldn't be able to do anything to the demons. They also realized that their mana energy was very low and not enough to defeat the demons. This was especially because they had spent mana energy on the magic sword when attacking them. Lloyd's sister said she couldn't cast her magic because there was fire everywhere, and she was worried about being burned. They kept searching for Sylvia and finally found her riding Lloyd's dog. She said, "Come on, hero, fly so we can save Lord Lloyd." However, the dog actually couldn't fly, and she thought about using a rope to tie it and get to the other side. But the silly dog jumped on its own and fell into the water. Suddenly, a demon attacked Sylvia with its sword, but Sylvia managed to parry the attack. The demon said he was surprised Sylvia could block his lightning-fast attack, even though the Guild of Odd People couldn't see it because of the speed of his sword strikes. Sylvia looked at the demon arrogantly and said, "You seem very confident in your sword skills." He replied, "Let me tell you something. All the demons you've seen so far are rank 10, but I'm rank 9. He also added, "You have no hope of defeating me." Sylvia was shocked and wondered, do demons have rankings? Then what was the rank of the demon Bazuzu that I defeated earlier? Sylvia then taunted the demon by asking, "What's going on in that head of yours? Did someone pee in there?" Then we switched to Alberto, who realized that all the demons in front of him had taken over human bodies and there was a curse controlling them. He began to search for a way to free them from the curse. Suddenly, one of the demons attacked him from behind, but Babylon from the Guild of Odd People immediately caught the demon and killed it. Alberto thanked him for saving him and asked Babylon to fight alongside him against the demons. Babylon told him that he shouldn't go too easy on the demons, as they were just demons possessing human bodies. Alberto then looked at the demon's arm and felt underestimated by him. He thanked Babylon for the advice and decided to use his magic to destroy all the demons. He used fire magic, dropping a giant fireball from the sky, which blew up everything until he ran out of mana energy. Then we returned to the intense battle between the demon and Sylvia, where they attacked each other with all their strength. The Guild of Odd People was shocked to see Sylvia able to parry all the demons' attacks with her sword skills. They wondered, who is this servant with such incredible swordsmanship? The demon said to him, "Don't dream that you can defeat me. I will leave this body, and after I defeat you, I will take your body and control it." He also added, "Once I take over your body, my skill in using the sword will increase drastically, and I will become much stronger." The demon decided to use the secret technique of the body he was possessing, but Sylvia managed to dodge his attack. The demon was impressed with the body he had taken over, showing many scars on his hands while saying that the body was insane when it came to trading. However, he decided to abandon that body and take over Sylvia instead. At that moment, Sylvia became furious and attacked with full force, striking the ground so hard that it cracked beneath her. The strange guild was overjoyed and kept cheering her on, saying, "Finish off that stupid demon." Then Lloyd's dog arrived, and the demon said to Sylvia, "Don't think that just because the two of you are fighting one person, you can defeat me." Sylvia then reached into the dog's fur and pulled out her magic sword, which was made by Lloyd. She decided to use it in the battle. We then flash back to Sylvia's past, where she trained intensely. Every sword she used never lasted long during her training, and she thought that if she used those swords in a real fight, she would surely lose. Therefore, Lloyd and Diane made her a special sword, one with great magical power that wouldn't easily break. Back in the present, Sylvia said to the demon, "This sword was made specifically to kill demons." However, the demon laughed and mocked her, "There's no way you can kill me, even with a sword made specifically to kill demons." Sylvia finally attacked and managed to kill the demon. She approached him and said, "I'm sure that before this demon took over your body, you were a famous and incredibly skilled swordsman. I wish I could have fought you before the demon possessed you." And so, this small battle ended, leaving only the great fight between Lloyd and the demon Gazarin. What will happen? We'll find out in the final part.